All right, and good morning and welcome back. Probably you are with us on demand today, but it is day 4 of the Coaching Business Builder 5-day challenge. And today we're continuing to move along. We are talking building your community and your team. Curious how your thinking went yesterday. We talked about building out your toolkit. We looked at a couple of the different tools from Coaching Business Builder. And it's been exciting this week to see people actually crack the spine on the book. Part of this challenge is about getting you familiarized with different parts of the book, things that you can be digging into as you continue to move forward in growing your business. So let's get started. And I want to start off by asking, who do you serve? And who you see on the screen are actually 3 different people, 3 different types of people. You might be familiar with them. On the top, we've got the digital dozen. Those are the avatars that represent the folks that we've been supporting here at Potentials Realized for the last 2 decades. People who are remote first, all about remote even before the pandemic. And so we have people like Jane, who is a virtual facilitator, and Malcolm, a mentor. We have Sam, who is a very savvy entrepreneur who actually sold her startup for $1 billion. And beside her, we have Sujit, who's a project manager. The digital dozen actually represent people that we have supported in some shape or form through coaching, team building, or also consulting work in the last decade. And what's interesting is as the pandemic ensued, the digital dozen were sort of also, I wouldn't say replaced by, they were joined by the virtual VUCAs. So in the midpoint, you can see the virtual VUCAs all on the screen. Again, most of us went through the years of living and working from home, finding those blurred boundaries where children and pets and different people were joining us for calls. Our programming in the areas of virtual facilitation essentials continue to support coaches and professionals in getting better conversations to happen. Because you know what? We really haven't all yet mastered Zoom. Well, as the world continues to change, we are now joined at the bottom by the hybrid hive. And I want you to stay tuned. I've been working with one of our co-op students in the last few months to get a whole new series about the hybrid hive out. And really where a lot of my focus has been in the last 3 to 4 months, especially, has been in supporting organizations and teams in figuring out how do we navigate this changing world, whether hybrid means 1 day a week, or whether it means 3 days a week and certain fixed days for teams to come in. So who we serve, right? Today, Coaching Business Builders, we need to be really attuned to who we serve and how those needs are changing in an ever-changing world. So for today, I want to dive into a couple of ideas for you to think about, starting with stakeholder mapping. And stakeholder mapping is a great tool getting you to think about your people and the resources, the people you serve, internal to your organization, if you do have a team, or external to your team. So I just want to actually use the whiteboard today to illustrate it, to give you a bit of a sense of how we can operate our time. So Ivana, you're here with me live today. Do you do any stakeholder mapping? Is that something, a part of your toolkit?
No, so I'm very curious actually about what you're sharing today.
All right, well, stakeholder mapping, similar to those pins you saw on the whiteboard, it starts to give us a sense of who's who in our ecosystem. So if you're doing any systemic coaching and really looking at like who's in the world, this is a tool that you'll really want to tap into. So rather than grabbing a whiteboard, you might also grab just a pad of paper, or you can do this on computer. So I'm going to start by putting ourselves in the middle. I'll just put a J, right, for Jennifer. And around that, I want to start listing out all the different people I serve. I'm going to start looking at it first with external stakeholders. And as I start thinking about the types of external stakeholders I serve, I also want to put those people at a proximity to me. Are these people close to me? Are they far away from me? So I might consider people like group coaches, right? I'm going to put them pretty close to me because the world of group coaching, and this is the area that actually Ivana supports, is an area that we have been specialized in for more than 16, 17 years. So we're pretty well known for our work and connections within the group coaching community. Now, off of that group coaching community, I could identify a lot of different players, right? People that we support, people that we partner with. I would say for group coaching, one of the hubs that I really value, and I'm going to give a shout out to her here, Coaching Tools Company with Emma Louise Elsey. I'm also going to talk about Coaching Toys Company with Marcy Nelson Garrison. And we have our conversation Sparker cards physically posted at that site, as well as a 40 ways guide. So Marcy's site is an amazing resource portal for anything experiential that you're looking for as a coach. She sells physical products. So I hope you're getting the idea, like who are the people you serve? And it's not just always one layer, but it may be more than one layer. I could also put things like the ICF community of practice, right? They've been a group that I've supported for many, many, many years, as well as other coach training schools. And then hopefully I also have even closer an A for our alumni base, because in the last 16 years of delivering group coaching essentials, we've trained thousands of coaches. We've helped thousands of coaches build out their program designs. They're out doing the work. And whether they've come to us live or they've come to us through the tens of thousands of copies of effective group coaching that have sold, they are in our ecosystem. So I would like to give you a minute to just start expanding this for yourself, right? I've gone down a pathway of one type of stakeholder that we serve. I would say there are multiples others. We serve, remote leaders. We support hybrid teams. We support new leaders. You saw a little bit about the hybrid hive, right? The hybrid hive are actually more Gen Z leaders. And so that's really important for our work at Potentials Realized. How do our learning solutions, I would call them, not methodologies, but how do the learning solutions that we offer meet the generational distinctions that are needed in today's work, from the boomers who are actually looking at retiring to people like myself in the Gen X category, where we still got a few years left, to the millennials, and of course the Gen Zs, who have a very different way of operating. And I have to say, this is where I feel so privileged to be a mom of a Gen Z, to understand just the digital native world of their reality. My son often will come and support me on different projects here and there, but he doesn't want to sit down with me and talk about it. He's always like, email me, mom. And at first I thought that was really weird and maybe just sort of like something unique to him. Not that my son is weird, but I was just like, that's really different. But you know what, as I've really been working with a lot more younger students, we had co-op students, they're very much about that seeing it in writing, and less about having the conversation. So I just offer that up. And so what our first step today really is just to get you thinking about, who do you serve? After today's call, you can think about what are their unique needs, just as I've explained with sort of the Gen Z population. But for you, who do you serve? Let's take a minute. I'm going to set my timer, and I'd love for you to just start sketching that out. Who do you serve? I'll be right back. Now, what becomes really interesting with this exercise, and we're not going to play it out fully, is it gives you an opportunity to start seeing, not only proximity, but what relationships might need attention, what's a priority. I put a little bar down below my name, and I put sort of like 5 lines of business. So we do support for group coaching, team coaching, remote and hybrid. We provide a lot of support around leadership development programming and also facilitation skills. And what's interesting, I just added that little F on the end because recently I was talking to a couple of folks and they were like, Jen, are you going to start offering your facilitation skills training again in person? Which I thought, oh, that's so interesting. For, 4 or 5 years now, it's really been almost all virtual. But I used to offer a 2-day facilitation skills intensive here in Toronto. Love it. And I think it's actually really needed again. So it may be a bit of a hybrid program, but stay tuned, probably in fall of 2022, depending on how things continue to emerge, we'll be offering it in person. And like I did, even back in 2014, we used to Skype people in. It was a hybrid program in terms of its delivery as well. So with that, just curious, Ivana, what was it like to start mapping that out for yourself?
It was great. You really kind of shifted my paradigm just because I'm also on the team when you started identifying the extended stakeholders from group coaching, like that dynamic. It's like, wow, like it is true. We to an extent, we support them and they support us. But I never saw it that way.
Yeah.
I never saw it that way. So it was a paradigm shift. And for me, when I started mapping, I also saw, like you said, I saw threads. Mm-hmm. And I also saw opportunities. Like there's an opportunity too that I noticed. It's like, okay, I'm here, but what about this group? This could be an opportunity too, which I was thinking about before lunch anyways. So it's perfect timing.
Perfect timing. And, again, we won't go into it today, but this really like having this visual map, which I go more into in Reconnecting Workspaces. So for people who want more detail, you're probably flipping through CBB and going, but wait, where is it? And I touch on it. But this is where Reconnecting Workspaces, my most recent book, comes in. And I've included it as one of the team tools under the relationship building chapter, which I think is chapter 10, Reconnecting Workspaces. But, this whole piece around collaboration, where is the pain right now in this moment? In organizations, it's very much about how do we become better collaborators? And we need to understand the lay of the land, right? Back to the mapping analogy, which is what we really do at Remote Pathways, is really think through like, what is the map? We first got to design the map. And then as Ivana said, we need to start seeing the connections. Is this a main road? Is this a side road? Is this like going up into the mountains? You can really geographically sort of map out everyone. And so this is one very visual way you can do it in the virtual space, but there are lots of other ways that you could be doing stakeholder mapping. So yeah, question, comment, Ivana?
Just a comment. I think it's on mine. It's really, really relevant how you made the reference of the distance of the line, how close it is to the nucleus. Yes. Really speaks to also for me. It's like, well, how much focus am I putting on this based on? Do I mean if it's so close to the nucleus, my time and energy should be relative to that. Yeah. So it's also some self-awareness for me coming through on that.
Right. And that's part of, any one of these exercises is what's that new layer that you're realizing? Because I think we are often like, oh yeah, we got to collaborate. But why? Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Henson's work around collaboration, he says, don't just collaborate for collaboration's sake, really understand. And how well, like what I like about stakeholder mapping is we can also visually see what is the volume of relationships, right? Can we alone, and this is for business owners, can we alone support all the webs of relationships? And this is where Yvonne and the rest of the team now come in, right? Like to a certain point, I could hold everything. But as this business has continued to grow, it's really important for us to have more people to have those conversations, to provide that support, to provide that really detailed knowledge in all these areas. So glad that we can make this really practical. And the field work today for everyone on today's call is to think about how do you really get more attuned to your stakeholder mapping, whoever is in there. So I'm going to head on back again. Here's like another way you could use pins, you could use string. That's just another visual way. If you're more like you don't want to do it on a screen or on a piece of paper, think about grabbing some pins and doing that. So we're going to switch. We have a few minutes left, so we're about halfway through our call today. And I wanted to call this like building your community and building your team. So part of building your community is, of course, understanding who you serve. And if you've been with us in Group Coaching Essentials, you'll be very familiar with the empathy mapping exercise. Invitation to really think about, still your stakeholders, who they are, what they need, who you serve. But there's also another piece of this equation, which is who do you need on your team? And one of the most popular books, I think, in the entrepreneurial sector last year was a book called Who Not How. And it was written by Dan Sullivan, who is, of course, I think Strategic Coach is the name of his company. And really, it's a great question to be asking, like, who do I need, not how? So much of work becomes relational, right? This is where in my coaching supervision training right now, we're talking a lot about relational presence, not just your presence, but the relational presence you create with those that you serve. And this is a really important piece. Even getting to coaching supervision training, advanced training this week was based on relationships, right? I would not have known about it had I not reached out to someone who was able to say, hey, did you know? And all of a sudden, what might have been a missed opportunity became a real reality. And so who do you need on your team, or who do you need in your web, even as a business owner? I think this is a critical question, because while we can do it alone, and I'm the first person to say it, it will take us longer, right? And I look at some of the movement in my business in these last couple of years, it's been expedited because I've gone out and hired coaches. I've gone out and joined groups where it's like, you know what, rather than taking 5 years to figure this out, here's what we've learned. And here's like the formula that you can be really adapting. And all of a sudden, a 5-year learning cycle can come down and be like a 3-month project. So in today's world, that's really critical. And who do you need on your team, whether it's that immediate team, as we've been talking, or the extended team? Because chances are we all need more people. So Ivana, team, you're part of my team. You're also part of other people's team. Like what would you say about who do you need on your team? What's important about this for business owners and coaches today?
Well, I'm familiar with the book, Who Not How, and it really is, it's a great resource because it really presences, in terms of even when we're thinking about coaching business builder and the relative, like sometimes we are our own ceiling, like we hit our own ceiling because we get in the way. So in terms of who do you need on your team and you're starting, for me, it's like, what are those tasks that just bury you in your books, that's keeping you in the tediousness, not only because it's in your business, not on your business, but also because you hate those tasks. So to me, it's like, it's really easy to start that delegation process as you have done with building your team in terms of determining what are the needs of the business and looking at that with also what are the needs, but also what are some of those tasks that you can bring on at a lower cost, to keep that profit line, in the green.
Healthy. Yeah, exactly.
Healthy.
And that's like, you're absolutely right. Like, where do you hit your level? And many of you, if you've been with me before in the Coaching Business Builder PlanDoTrack series, you'll have probably heard me talk about the 4D model. We'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow, but it's not my model to sort of, task delegation. It came out, I think Jack Cranfield and others evolved it in the mid 2000s. But it really gets you thinking about, what do you need to do? What do you need to dump? What do you need to delegate? And what do you need to defer? And I think it can be very seductive in business. It's like, oh yeah, we have all these goals, but like, as we start getting data, and this is why I wrote PlanDoTrack and Coaching Business Builder, as we get the data, we can start seeing what really is having the impact. Is that truly, a top 5 priority, or might we do something a little bit different so that it becomes, like this program will, an on-demand offering that people can start at any time? So
what is the name of that model again? Sorry, Jen, I didn't catch it.
Yeah, it's called the 4D model. 4D, like do it, dump it, defer it, delegate it. Yeah. And actually, Microsoft adopted it about 20 years ago for email management as well. So think about it, like, what do I need to really do? Only I can do. I can't defer it. I can't delegate it to a lower, a lower cost or someone else. And really, it's something that needs to get done. I can't dump it as well. I can't just take it off the list.
The thread that I took from that, bringing it back to the stakeholder map, is looking at, where you're investing your time and your energy and your resources, and the metrics will tell you if that's actually a stakeholder to invest, or to even revisit that relationship. That maybe if your business is actually really thriving through that relationship, is extending out to see how you can do more for that relationship, right? So it creates a win-win relationship. That's what I'm really getting from this conversation.
Yeah. And, these are not relationships that are built overnight, right?
No.
I think of one of our partners, and we did a lot of work last year. I think it was very fruitful for both of us. This year they're doing other things, I'm doing other things, but I reached out to them about 2 weeks ago when they said, oh, hey, we'd love to get some product and maybe give it away to some of our folks. I said, yeah, well, let's also think about doing, maybe something again in 2023, right? And that's like a good window. That's a biannual cycle. But I think a lot of coaches are thinking like, I've got to do it now. I've got to do it like tomorrow. Well, let's, part of Coaching Business Builder and why it's a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual planner, because it is geared to really help you move into that more strategic horizon. Can you be moving everything forward at the same time? Maybe, but maybe not. So, what's the window that you want to be earmarking it for? And that's where people on your team can help you, right? Because if you do want to get it done, then maybe you need to hire people or have people that you can reach out to take on that immediate work to free you up to do some of that more big rock activity. So who do you need on your team? Invitation to think about that. And there's a third layer I just wanted to quickly touch on, and this comes from Coaching Business Builder. You'll find it on page number 89. I think one of the realities, we talk a lot about this in Team Coaching Essentials, is co-coaching, right? In today's world of larger systems, of larger groups, of larger teams, it's likely that you might be working with a co-coach. And this has been something I've been very conscious of since I published in 2009 Effective Group Coaching. So you'll check out Effective Group Coaching. You'll see that there was actually a digital chapter that accompanies the book around co-facilitation. If you have From One to Many, you'll see a whole chapter, I think it's chapter 11, on co-facilitation. And then Coaching Business Builder, I bring back this idea of co-facilitation. How do we really work together? Because co-facilitation, just like partnering, doesn't just happen. It's really, a dance, and we need to get to know each other as well. So I like to propose, and so this is sort of like the Britton co-facilitation model: start, design, implementation, and post-program checkpoints. What I'm very conscious of right now is there's a lot of talk especially in the team coaching space, around how do we co-coach? Well, you know what? Dip into these resources, share these with your colleagues, because very much co-facilitation is an art form, but there is a science, and part of the science is conversationally based. So definitely, check this out. It was in Effective Virtual Conversations as well. So use it and let us know how you're finding it. So that's a third layer. So ultimately, out of today's call, it is a question of who do you need to support you? So I want to leave us with our last sort of minute of reflective pause, getting you to think about who do you need to support you. Take a moment, maybe add to your stakeholder map, or perhaps even, shade it. You could grab a colored pen and just highlight with, a red or a different color to highlight who you would like to have added on. Take a minute now and just work on that. All right. I know it's not enough time, but that's where your daily steps come in, right? Part of Coaching Business Builder and PlanDoTrack is all about 15 minutes a day. Daily steps plus consistent action start to move the needle and create its own momentum. So today's big question has been, who can support you? And some of your level up challenge is to complete your co-facilitation questions. If you are partnering with people, bring those questions in, think about them. You'll find them again in Coaching Business Builder. I'll just go back and flip back to see what page it was again. Page 89. Page 89, you'll find those co-facilitation questions. If you have been following this through line this week of the Q3 vision and your quarterly, maybe even your 2022 or your annual vision, start thinking about partnerships and stakeholders. You might also want to continue this stakeholder mapping work that we started doing today. So I hope you've enjoyed this. We've talked about, your team a little bit. We've talked about who you need. We've also just foreshadowed the 4D model of time management. And tomorrow really is about building your productivity, because Coaching Business Builder at its heart is a productivity resource. It's all about getting you into planning, getting you into tracking, getting you into noticing what is having an impact short term, medium term, and then long term. So we want to look at everything in productivity from the daily, weekly, monthly, but also the quarterly and the annual process. And that's why Coaching Business Builder is a year-long planner. It's not just the workbook. There are more than 125 pages on the weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual planners, including content creation. So I don't get to talk about it a lot, but some of you have been using this religiously since 2018. You buy a new one. What I do, I actually go back and forth. 1 year I'll do Coaching Business Builder, which is this year. The next year I'll do PlanDoTrack. Then I'll go back to Coaching Business Builder. So PlanDoTrack is for virtual and remote professionals. Almost all of us are those now. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed today. Tomorrow we are back at 8 o'clock a.m. So if you can't join us live, join us in the virtual space. Ivana, what was your big takeaway from today?
My big takeaway is to really revisit the energy on my partners and who I want to add in my partners, both in terms of supporting me in building my business, but also in similar to what we have in our relationships with people who, we support a similar audience.
Yes, absolutely. Hope you enjoyed today. And again, quick mention, summer camp registrations for 2022 are still open until June 30th. That's going to be the hard stop cutoff. So pricing has increased a little bit, but you can join us in 3 monthly installments. So I'll put that out in the newsletter. Again, it's going to be weekly activity for 5 weeks to really grow your business. Mondays is the deep dive into our weekly topic. Tuesdays is going to be a renewal evening from Lakeside. Wednesday, it's all about getting things done. So there'll be getting things done, design sprints, program reviews in short windows. Like we're talking an hour a day. We're not talking the whole day you're going to need to earmark, just an hour a day. And then on Thursdays, it'll be an open space Q&A office hours. So if this is a summer to grow your business, let's do it. And just know that the registration will be closing for all of the camp on the 30th, because Canada Day is going to be happening July 1st, and I will be putting up my feet Lakeside. So with that, thanks for joining us today, Ivana. Good to see you. Thanks, everyone else. We'll see you soon. Take care. Be well. Bye.
Bye.